Hi. In my last video, well, first of all, I want to thank everyone that liked my video or viewed my video and or commented. I appreciate all of your support. There were two comments that I at least want to address before I begin the content for this video. One is one person thought that I was being overly cautious concerning toxicity of the chemo drugs. Likely you are correct. I'm very cautious. I'm also going with the recommendations of my oncology team, and they have more experience than I do with toxicity, and so I'm going with their recommendations. Secondly, I mentioned with chemo you get dry mouth, and that I would occasionally pop in a lifesaver to help get rid of that dryness. And a very good friend of mine who is a dentist reminded me that sucking on candy that has sugar in it leads to tooth decay, and especially when your mouth is dry. So he recommended Biotene products. And in fact, I looked it up. I talked with my doctor about them. Biotene products are designed to help with dry mouth, and they are sugar-free. There's a mouthwash, there's a mouth spray, there are lozenges. So if you have cancer or if you suffer from dry mouth, try Biotene products. No, I'm not getting paid by Biotene, just trying to help you out. So this video today is about my diagnosis. And I haven't been ready to talk about it on camera because it's very emotional. So 3 months ago, I was diagnosed. And I was sick on Tuesday. Just didn't feel real good. Hadn't had a bowel movement for like 3 days. That's never been a problem before, but I was taking a drug called Wegovy, which was helping with weight loss. And I had taken Wegovy for several months, 5 months actually, but was off it for a short time because they couldn't get the dose I needed. And then I started up a month before I was diagnosed with a stronger dose. So the few symptoms I had for ovarian cancer, I contributed to being side effects of Wegovy. They were not, but I didn't know that until after my diagnosis. In fact, my husband and I had talked about, should I go off Wegovy because I didn't like the side effects that I was having. I stayed with it because in 5 months I had lost 40 pounds, so I was being successful with it. And I was hesitant to stop even though I didn't like the side effects. But let me be clear, Wegovy was not causing the side effects I was having. I just didn't know it at the time. So on a Tuesday, I didn't feel real good, but you know, I mean, we have those times when we don't feel real good. And at 9:30, I got up to go to bed, and I couldn't stand straight, and I was in pain, and I knew something was wrong. Now, my 91-year-old mother was sitting in the chair across the room because she lives with us. And I said to her, I'm going to bed, I don't feel well. And she said, well, it was time for her to go to bed too. Once I got in bed, after a while, I started shivering. And I mean shivering. I got up, I put on a pair of leggings, I put on socks, I had my gown on and I put my robe on and I crawled back in bed and I continued to shiver and shake so much the whole bed shook. And I felt really sick. And I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew something was wrong. I didn't call anyone at that time. I just thought I was sick. An hour or two later, I got up. I tried to go to the bathroom. I was not successful, but I threw up twice. Now, for some reason, our mind tries to logically think of why we are sick. When I threw up, I told myself, gee, I must just have the flu. It wasn't the flu. I made it through the night. Tuesday, I didn't feel good. At 10 o'clock, I drove myself up to the pharmacy, which is only a mile away. And I said to the pharmacist, I need to have a bowel movement right away. What do you recommend? Because I don't want it to take a couple of hours. So he recommended this particular type of enema. I went home and I did it and nothing worked. Now it says on the box, if you use this product and you do not have results, meaning you don't have a bowel movement, you need to contact your doctor. So I waited until about 6 o'clock that night and I drove back to the pharmacy, and this time I bought some Miralax. It says it's going to work in 4 or 5 hours. So I took it and I went to bed. Now I knew I was sick. I also knew I needed to go to the hospital. But I told myself I didn't want to go and sit for 6 hours in the emergency department before I was seen. I didn't have the energy to drive myself there. I didn't have the energy to sit in a waiting room for 6 hours. I knew I couldn't do it. I'd rather just lay in bed. How does an intelligent, independent woman like myself become unable to make rational decisions? That's how sick I was. I could have called my son. I could have called my neighbors. I could have called my sister. None of that crossed my mind. All I thought of was I'm too sick to drive to the emergency room, and I'm too sick to sit there for 6 hours. I could have called 911. I didn't. None of that was a rational thought for me at that time. I was too sick. The next morning, I got up about 6 o'clock. I did not feel good, but I felt that I was strong enough to drive myself to the emergency room. I wrote a note to my mom that that's where I was going, and I put it on the chair she sits in. And I drove. Probably took me 30 minutes to get to a local hospital, a very good hospital in our area. When I got to the hospital, I parked in a handicapped space. My mom has a handicap permit for when we take her to appointments. So I went ahead and used it. It's the only time I personally have ever used her little placard. I'm very fortunate that there was only one spot left, and it happened to be the wheelchair van spot, so I took it. I would not have had the energy to walk from the parking structure over to the hospital. So I felt very fortunate. So as I walk in, the guard says to me, ma'am, I'll tow your van if you don't have a handicap permit. And I said, there is a permit. And he says, oh, good, good. Now, do you have any weapons on you? I looked at him. Well, first of all, if I had weapons and planned on harming someone, would I tell him? No. But of course I had no weapons. And I told him, hey, I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to get some help. And he said, okay, good, good. So I walk in the door. There's one person being questioned at the front desk. So I only wait like 2 minutes. And I go up and I give them my information. Immediately, they take me to the triage nurse. That's a first, because usually you have to go wait for a while. I went in and I sat down and I started crying. What was that about? I said, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm just so glad that I'm here and somebody can help me. I got over that. She answered my questions. She said, well, I want you to go sit in the waiting room and we'll call you in just a couple minutes. I walk over to the waiting room and there is no one there. I mean, it's empty. No one. When does that happen at a huge hospital? There was no one in the emergency room. Is that fate? So they call me back within minutes. I'm not even settled in the bed and the doctor comes in and starts talking to me. Orders some tests. They take my vitals, whatever. He comes back a little bit later and says, we're starting you on an antibiotic. You have an infection. And he thought it could be diverticulitis, which is, I knew what it was, but it's where, and it happens often as you get older, where parts of your intestines have, just like little, what do I call them, little hooks that come off the side and things can get caught in and they can get infected. So he starts explaining that and then he kind of stops and he says, you're going to go for a CT scan and then we'll know more. So I wait and I go down for the CT scan and I come back and my doctor doesn't come back. Another doctor comes in, turns out he's a surgeon, and he says, we think you have, no, he didn't say that. He said, the radiologist believes that they see ovarian cancer. And you're going to need surgery. But we can't see clearly your colon and cervical area. The radiologist thinks you might also have cervical cancer or colon cancer. We're not, the radiologist isn't sure. And he said, I don't think you have cervical cancer, but we can't really determine it by the CT scan, so we're sending you for an MRI. So I go down for the MRI. And of course, they have to give me something to relax me because there is no way no way I will willingly go and have an MRI done without being knocked out. Well, I ask if they'll just drug me and put me to sleep. And of course, they won't do that because when you sleep, you move. And with an MRI, they need you not to move. But I was relaxed. So eventually we get the results of the MRI back and other surgeons come in, tell me the same thing. Yeah. We think you have ovarian cancer, but we can't tell what's going on with your cervical area. So we'll have to have surgery. Well, it's determined that I'm going to have surgery 3 days later. They're waiting for my surgeon who sees me on Friday morning. My oncologist, gynecologist, surgeon, he's both. He came in Friday morning to see me and told me that he was going to be gone through the weekend and that he would come in after office hours on Monday to do the surgery. I'm in the hospital at this point. I've been admitted. So the surgeon when he tells me this, he sits at my bedside and he takes my hand and he holds it. And he says to me, I want you to know I'm going to do everything for you. In fact, I'm going to treat you as if you were my mama. And I love my mama. I would do anything for my mama. And I'm going to treat you like my mama. I will do everything to help you. What kind of bedside manner is that from a surgeon? I've had a handful of surgeries, and although I've liked my surgeons okay, this guy is awesome. Now, I'm alone at this point, and I was alone in the emergency room. My husband, we've been married 18 years, and our relationship is solid and good, and he is my rock. I was 47 when I got married, and it was my first marriage. I never thought I'd get married, and then I met Tom, and he wormed his way into my heart, and I fell in love. And we've had our ups and downs, definitely, but we love being with each other. But Tom was on a special project with the U.S. government, and he was in Guam surveying damage from a typhoon that had happened earlier in the year. And so my calls with him, he was, I don't know, like the next day ahead for me, so I couldn't always reach him by phone, and he wasn't able to reach me by phone. But we did talk a little by phone and also by texting. And when he knew I was going to have surgery, he got permission to leave his deployment early. Now, Guam is 19 hours from Portland, Oregon. He has to fly to Japan and then to San Francisco and then to Portland. So he left early enough to get here before my surgery. Unfortunately, he got to San Francisco and his flight was delayed twice. He didn't make it back to me before my surgery. He got to the hospital 10 minutes after I was in surgery. Now, some of my family came and saw me at the hospital. That was, that's endearing and that's nice, and I appreciated it. But my husband wasn't there. And it was scary. Not just that you're going into surgery, but this ovarian cancer diagnosis came out of the blue, which it does for women because the symptoms just aren't there. What are the symptoms that I had? Constipation, heartburn, not feeling good. Those were my symptoms. Those can be symptoms of anything. But those were the symptoms I had, and I wrongly attributed it to a different drug. I have never thought, oh, poor me. Why me? That really hasn't gone through my thought process. I've had more of, how long am I going to live? Do I get another Christmas with my boys and my husband? How sick am I going to get? And then I have to go through surgery, and I haven't even got to see my husband in 3 weeks. I felt kind of lost, and I was very scared. In my next video, I will talk about the surgery and after. Thanks for watching.